You're listening to episode 48 of Present Moment. Welcome to Present Moment, Mindfulness, Practice, and Science. I'm Ted Meissner. Present Moment is a podcast with interviews, conversations, and roundtable discussions. We speak with mindfulness teachers about their newest findings published in peer-reviewed science journals, teachers about their understanding and methods as they work with students of mindfulness, authors about their books and interests, and we also speak with everyday practitioners. The website presentmomentmindfulness.com has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Martin Aylward returns to the podcast to speak with us about worldwide insight. What if you had access to world-class teachers from the convenience of your own home? We're seeing more and more the use of digital technology to bring people together to learn, practice, and develop communities based on commonality of aspiration rather than necessity of location. Today's podcast focuses on one such online offering and the wonderful variety of teachers participating. After strong intimations of the spiritual as a teenager, Martin Aylward traveled to India aged 19 to explore meditation. He spent most of the next 5 years in monasteries, ashrams, and meditation centers in India and Thailand, including 2 years in a hermitage in the Himalayas with his teachers. Returning to Europe in 1995, he co-founded with his wife Gail the Tapovan Dharma community in the French Pyrenees. Gradually, the number of visitors increased beyond the capacity of the place, and in 2005, 10 years after opening, they relocated to Les Moulins, a former Zen monastery in the southwest France, where Martin and Gail continue to live with their 2 children. Our guest today returning to us is Martin Aylward. Martin, welcome back to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Hi, Ted. Nice to be here.
So when last we spoke with you, it was for episode 18, which was on intimacy. And today we're here to talk about another project you've been involved with, Worldwide Insight. Can you tell us about what that is and how it got started?
Sure. Really, I ran a couple of things online, some teachings that I did over a month that people could follow with me. And I, saw the potency really of online teaching. I'd been working with students individually for a while before that. And the interest was to find a form to be able to do that more efficiently, both in terms of teaching myself, but also having seen how complicated it was to really build a site and with both payment gateways and user accounts and everything else for people to follow courses, sort of wanting to make an architecture for that other teachers could also plug into. And then fortuitously, I met somebody who came on retreat at the center where I live and teach in France, who had a background, that was her background. So she'd been running online conferencing mostly for corporate work, and one was wanting to align her skills for that more with her values as a meditator. So we started this company, Realize Media. And Worldwide Insight was the first big initiative, and it's a weekly class every Sunday, run by different teachers, mostly in the Insight meditation tradition. And there's usually some guided meditation, some teaching reflections from the teacher, and rather uniquely, the opportunity to have a live video Q&A. So people are watching the teacher, but there's a little button they can press to raise their hand, and then their video screen comes on with the teachers, and they can have some dialogue and explore in that way with the teacher. So it goes out every Sunday, and we try to time it so that East and West Coast US and all over Europe is a sort of convenient time of day, so that as many people as wish to can tune in.
Wonderful. And thank you for that review of it. And as someone who's been joining those from the very beginning, I'm very grateful to you and your colleagues in this and setting it up. And I'm wondering if you could take a moment just to acknowledge those colleagues and tell us a little bit about their involvement and dedication to this project.
Yeah, well, you've given the two good words for that, involvement and dedication. There's been a lot of involvement, building the site technically, contacting teachers and scheduling classes and managing dates, giving teachers a technical run through each time, checking their bandwidth, etc., etc. And then also just replying to the Sangha, the community of people that join in terms of their questions, and managing mailing lists and all the stuff that goes into running things. So the two main other people in the project, so that's Amy Jacob, who is the technical director and has built the whole platform, who I referred to just now. And then there's also Giles Collins, who has been another old friend and colleague, and he's been managing marketing and social media and administration for the whole thing. And both Giles and Jacob have full-time jobs themselves, so it's very much been a sense of dedication and a labour of love for them. And part of our agreement in setting up is, with my teaching schedule, I didn't really feel I was able to take on any of the day-to-day, so they've been really holding that and putting a lot of their own care and attention and time and energy into it. And then more recently, Caroline Wood joined as a volunteer, just somebody who I've known and has practiced with me, and just giving her time as well to support the initiative, having found it valuable herself. So for the moment, we're very, very much reliant on just their voluntary goodwill and giving of their time. And hopefully as things build and become sustainable, we'll be able to take care of them in different ways.
Wonderful. It's amazing the things that can happen when there is sincere collaboration and giving towards this common goal of sharing a practice with others. I'm so glad to hear that's happening. So tell us a little bit about who some of the guests have been. I know you've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as the presentations are, but you've also had some very familiar names cropping up in your list of guests that you've had and that you plan on having. Can you tell us a little bit about who some of those folks are?
First of all, I might say it hasn't too much felt like heavy lifting. I have led more classes than any of the other teachers. Sometimes that's been programmed. A lot of the people that join have initially come from my mailing list and network and know me as a teacher. And sometimes it's been to fill in when others haven't been available for whatever reason. But I'm quite at ease speaking to the little camera in my laptop, sort of with the sense of actually looking into the eyes of students behind a camera. And I've very much enjoyed the questions people ask, the engagement and dialogue with people, and the appreciation that, what a great resource people find it. So far from heavy lifting, I have to say, I'm really glad to be able to do that. And myself living very rurally, even though I have a lot of contact with students who come to the centre where I live here at the Moulin to be on retreat with me, I don't have that kind of regular contact with a local Sangha in the same way. So, yeah, that's been a delight. And then others have taught, Tara Bruck and Gregory Kramer, speaking about insight dialogue. Some people from the Against the Stream tradition, Joanna Harper, Michael Stone also taught, Mark Coleman, Martina Batchelor and Stephen Batchelor, I think, etc. So some familiar names. And I would say there's a threefold interest in terms of what we're trying to provide with the platform. Partly we want to provide a diversity of teachers, some diversity of practice background, some diversity in terms of the cultural background of the teachers, some diversity of experience. So a combination of teachers that are well known and well loved, with others that actually, may have a lot to offer, but don't have the kind of exposure some of the better known teachers. So there's that field. Then there's also a sense of wanting to have a diversity of subject matter, so that, I know, people listen to Dharma Seed, or they listen to talks on retreat, and often those talks can be very meditation focused, which is entirely appropriate if you're on meditation retreat, right? But because this is meeting people in the midst of their lives, then a lot of the interest in it is to address subjects that are the stuff of their lives, relational practice, and there's tricky stuff around communication or work or family issues, and also looking at some of the cultural issues, whether that's social justice issues and the way that impacts people, ecological crisis and issues and the way that's impacting. And that also reflecting the wider world, I think, of contemplative practice, and the sense that one can't contemplate in a vacuum when the sense of wanting to bring wisdom and compassion to life is confronted with the environmental degradation and especially actually some of the social justice issues as well, and particularly some of the painful stuff around race, which has been happening in the US in such an outrageous way. So diversity of teachers, diversity of subject matter. There's a third area that I'm just trying to think of, but so diversity of background, diversity of experience in the teachers, and diversity of the themes that we explore.
And as someone who's attended these, that's one of the things that I appreciate most about what's been brought through Worldwide Insight is you have a wide variety, a diversity of teachers who bring their own unique flavor. And if you are very steeped in a traditional practice, that's fine. That's great. You'll find something that resonates with you in the teachers here. If you're new to this practice, you've only come to it from some mindfulness-based intervention and you want to learn more, you'll still find something that resonates with you because of that exploration and the topics as well, Martin. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really what this practice is about, is what does it mean to us in our lives, in the here and now, and that touches on so many different things that happily our entire lives are open to this practice and this exploration. And you're able to highlight and focus on different parts of that and use a wonderful competency of the teachers that you've got. So thank you so much for doing that.
Well, it's very gratifying to hear that those elements that were important to us in setting it up have, that you've noticed and been impacted them.
Yeah, they do shine through. They do shine through. So what have some of the other responses been? What have you heard from people who've been attending this, or from the other teachers that have been part of it? What's their experience been like?
In some ways, I might not be the best person to ask, because I don't have so much to do with the day-to-day. I don't get to see. Occasionally, I'll get forwarded a particularly appreciative email. But generally, that's the response that I hear from Giles fielding emails, especially from people who, there's a lot of people who would love to have a regular Sangha, but don't live in an urban situation or a situation where they have access to that in their town or city. And so it's really been a beautiful opportunity for people to plug in to that weekly rhythm of sensing the connection with fellow practitioners and people who have an alignment of values and interests and aspiration. And every Sunday when we start at 8 p.m. European time, 7 p.m. in the UK. So what's that? 2 p.m. on the East Coast and 11 a.m. on the West Coast. And in the 10 minutes before we start, when people are arriving and logging in, there's just this rolling bar in the chat where people are just saying, hi from Virginia. Hi from Maryland. Hi from France. Hi from Amsterdam. And just sort of greeting and saying where they're checking in from. And that sense of, this community of practitioners assembling, and really the sense of being here together. And as our practice develops and deepens, one of the things we learn is that awareness doesn't have a location. The only thing we can say about experience is that it's right here. And it turns out, just like you and I are right here together, even though we're speaking over Skype. And that sense of people assembling from all over the world, but we're sitting here together. And so people have been very appreciative of being able to plug into that sense of support and connection with each other, and the peership and solidarity of that, as well as the benefiting from whatever the teachers bring.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm glad you brought up that sense of community involvement. That what I hear so often from people who reach out to me through the different podcasts that I do is this: where can I practice? How can I do this? How do I find that connection with others, that community? And that's led to tremendous advances and opening and maturation of some of the offerings that we have. And what really we've learned is that community used to be based once upon a time on a geographic dependency. That you needed to be close by to go hear that teacher. And what we're seeing with this digital technology is the ability to join people from all over the world. So if you're geographically isolated or perhaps ideologically isolated, there are local centers, but they don't quite fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
That this presents a wonderful option for you to connect with others and develop a sense of Sangha. Even though it's online, it might not have the same kind of impact as in person. We've noticed in our own practice circle on Sunday nights that we offer and have been for over 2 years now, that there's still that strong sense of community, and that even missing one of those sessions, there's just a wonderful welcoming when we return again after a time away. So what are some of the challenges that you've run into as this project has been moving forward?
Yeah, there have been a few. Actually, before I mention the challenges, you also asked about teachers' responses to it. There's been some differences. I think some teachers more than others have felt comfortable in what I was referring to earlier about, looking into that little green light in the bezel of the laptop and being able to have a sense that there are real human beings behind there that you're actually talking to. So some haven't felt quite so able to connect to the fact that they're alone at home talking to a little screen. Mostly people have appreciated the fact that, they're reaching an audience that they maybe wouldn't reach, right? It's very different than reaching an audience in a particular geographical location. And some teachers have actually got very excited by it, and it's stimulated that sense of, well, hold on, there's a whole world of possibility here. Could I do this and could I do that? And that leads into the sort of sister project of Worldwide Insight, which are the longer form courses through Realize Media. And I've done a month-long course on looking at the inner critic called I See You, Mara. And Stephen Batchelor also just ran a month-long course also. And there's 3 or 4 other courses in pre-production. And I think that's one of the ways that it'll grow, is from this sort of Sunday night regular opportunity to check in with teachers and follow a class, the fact to then follow more specialized or in-depth aspects of teachings over a few weeks. So there's that piece. And then in terms of the challenges, well, sometimes the tech, because we're sort of working at the edge of the possibilities with the tech. So there's different things we run into. We ran into, the platform that we had built and we're using, sometimes having some bugs. We also ran into just people sort of panicking because they can't get the tech to work for whatever reason. And sometimes it's just that they're in a place with very low bandwidth, or that they haven't updated some piece of their software recently and it's incompatible, or that one or other web browser itself updates and then there's a time lag until something else updates, et cetera, et cetera. So just little niggles like that, basically. And they mostly have ironed themselves out, I would say. We've been running every week since February, I think. And there's been 2 or 3 weeks out of that. So that must be 25 weeks maybe we've done now. And maybe, a couple of times where there's been some scrabbling around in the background to keep it running for one or other reason. So, as we go on, those things have become more straightforward. The other challenge, I would say, is now that we've got, there are 4,000 people signed up since February from 80 different countries. And on any class, there might be usually between 80 to 200 people attending a class. So that's great. But the costs of maintaining the platform to be able to handle that many people being online have been rising. It's got to the point now where our fixed costs per month, without, nobody's getting paid anything, our fixed costs are actually now greater than the amount of money that's coming in each month from Dana. The class is offered freely. And there's that request of, please, we're trying to support you, please support us. And of course, people do in different ways, but it's a tiny fraction of the people that tune in that send Dana each week. And, for now, we're happy to be serving people. We're happy to be offering what Worldwide Insight does. And the longer form courses that I ran and that Stephen run have been able to subsidize the weekly class, but that isn't sustainable long term. So we're offline for the month of August to have a summer break. And when we come back the first Sunday in September, there'll be a new class, which I think I might be leading. And our intention is to have something of a fundraising drive in September, and just to really explain, we know people appreciate the platform. People want to support us, but sometimes the appreciation sort of peters out a little bit on the way from the heart to the pocket. So various ways, I think, to try and just explain clearly to people how important the support is so that it can continue to grow and thrive in that way. And looking a little more longer term, I think we probably need to get some supporter investment in it so that Jake and Giles particularly, and Caroline, the people that have been working so hard in the background as volunteers, if we could actually pay somebody to do some administration and to give some more consistent time, we could improve the offering. We could do more in terms of, along with the Sunday class, we could have, for example, 3 consecutive Wednesdays when a teacher will look at something particular. 4 consecutive Tuesdays on the Brahma Viharas, on the immeasurable qualities of the heart, etc. So feels like there's a lot of interest in it. There's a lot of possibility to respond to that interest and to offer good and creative teachings in this great format. And just the realities of the fact of needing some money to be able to have some time and energy and attention to go into building the momentum of all that. That's the nature of startups, right? A lot of time and energy goes in, and it's and teeters on the precipice of it, whether it's working out financially. So for the moment is keeping faith with the good spirit of it and the appreciation that's there in people, and hoping that will work out.
Just to join in to support what Martin is saying, and this is something I need to do myself as well, because there's an intention behind this that it's a little different when we're posting something on Facebook. It's a click, it's a link, and no big deal. And often we don't realize quite how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into making this kind of offering and making it available to people. And one thing I would ask for those who are listening to this podcast to join these kinds of programs is to understand this is being freely given. This is from our hearts. I know it is for Martin and his work. It is for Present Moment. And if you do join things like what we're talking about today with Worldwide Insight, and you find it of value, if you're able, take a few moments and do that support, because that's what enables that to continue, supporting you in your life and your practice. So just to throw in a little support on that, if you even just give what you can, however small that may be, that's okay. Every little bit helps. Martin, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners about Worldwide Insight?
Well, it's about the wonder of connection. The whole essence of a meditative practice is really about connection. Right? We're training the art of connection to actually connect more fully and fluidly and freely to our own experience as it's unfolding. The art of actually sensing our connection with the life that's all around us, to know the intimacy of connection that we actually exist in with others, and to find the connection that's always there despite our tendency to feel isolated by our own narrowness of thought and our own narrow identifying with this body and this mind and these thoughts and my problems and my life, etc. So I'm just struck as we speak about that, but in the way Worldwide Insight is serving that sense of connection in the rather ironic way, or unexpected way of people feeling a sense of contact and support with each other despite being far away. And like we mentioned that before, and the sense of community. And I'm struck by you and I speaking about this and the connection that's there now. Whether it's through Worldwide Insight, whether it's through this podcast, whether it's through the practices that the listeners to this are maintaining themselves, we live in a world that's desperately in need of us being more connected to what matters. And again, we mentioned earlier the sort of prejudice and social justice issues. And those issues rise out of us not understanding or not feeling our connection to one another. And we spoke about environmental crisis and trying to address that through Worldwide Insight. We can only behave so recklessly towards the natural world and the resources of the world by not understanding and feeling our connection to it. So it seems like that's the place where the work of Worldwide Insight and the work of this podcast and the work of our practice and our work in the world all comes together. So if I want to add anything, it's just to celebrate and encourage and point us to the value and the importance and the depth of connection. And of course, the way that that's always available, just the connection to life that's here by virtue of, being in this body, being in this experience, being in this moment, and sensing our capacity to know that and feel that, and then the challenge and the possibility of how to respond to the life we find ourselves in.
I couldn't agree more. As very eloquently said, Martin, that this is a living practice, and that by our simple awareness of a connection that's already there for us in every moment, and that in each moment we have that choice to simply become aware, to open up to connections and to practice them. Not to have to forge them from cold, but to simply open ourselves to them and allow them to flourish in our lives moment by moment. Our guest today has been Martin Aylward. You can find out more about what we've been speaking about today at www.worldwideinsight.org. I'll be linking that on the episode page to this episode, along with a few other links for you. Martin, thank you so much for being here. Always good to speak with you.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the website at presentmomentmindfulness.com. You'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. You can comment on the episode page and find show notes and other helpful resources for your mindfulness practice. The shakuhachi music heard on Present Moment is used by permission and through the generosity of musician Rodrigo Rodriguez. His website is linked on the Present Moment website on the About Podcast Music page. Sound editing, mixing, and mastering provided by the generosity of Anthony Dominello of StructureFromSound.com. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on Present Moment.